tragically underpaid, unappreciated, exhaustingly overworked, and even physically assaulted by customers.
These are some of the conditions ride, hail, and food delivery workers like Uber and DoorDash say they face on the job. On Thursday, the BC government proposed new standards to try and change that.
We will establish a minimum earning standards that equals to 120% of BC general minimum wage, in addition to tips.
The Minister of Labour says based on the province's $16.75 an hour minimum wage, that works out to $20.10 an hour. The wage is for engaged time only, from when a worker accepts an assignment to when it's finished, not while waiting between rides. The new legislation would also include workers' compensation, with companies required to register with WorkSafe BC and pay premiums.
Picking up passengers, we'll feel more secure that we'll be covered. We'll feel safer. We'll have wages that will just match what the next person or what the average person is making.
Joyna Hernick is an Uber driver who has been driving with her pup Honey Toes since the ride-sharing app launched in BC. She says she welcomes the legislation, most importantly because it won't affect the ability to work her own hours.
They're not changing our flexibility. They're adding benefits, and there's people doing this job that can use that.
A statement from Uber says with the introduction of an online platform worker category, an offer of benefits and protections like a 120% minimum wage guarantee and workers' compensation coverage, today's announcement by BC is encouraging. However, we will need to review the legislation and regulations closely once available. Some of the proposed protections also include better transparency in pay and destination, letting drivers know what they're going to be paid for a ride or delivery and where they're going on each trip.
Customers do not know how much of their fare goes to the drivers, and drivers do not know how much the customer has paid for that trip.
The only time that would be important to me is if I only want to work till a certain time and that trip's too far. So it's not going to work for me, but it'd probably be nice to know where you're going before you go there.
If the legislation is passed, it would also mean better job security, a formal notice in writing of suspension or deactivation of an account, and a review process, tip protection, and compensation for using personal vehicles. Workers under the Employment Standards Act would also be defined as employees. These standards wouldn't cover things like overtime, stat holidays, or paid leave. If the legislation is passed and new regulations are finalized, changes are expected to come into effect in early 2024. In Vancouver, Kate Walker, City News.